Hi everyone. So welcome to the latest in our series of ENFOS Expert webinars. Today we have Torrie Behrens going through how to master the ENFOS mobile app. So I'll hand it over to her shortly. I just want to let you know you should be able to submit questions through the panel on your screen. And we're going to save about 15 minutes at the end to go through those, so don't hesitate to ask. We'll also have some info about our upcoming conference after the Q&A. And lastly, this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the ENFOS help section in the following days. So with that, I will give it to Torrie.
Yep, great. Thanks, Chris. So the purpose of this webinar is to introduce and train the users on the functionality of the ENFOS mobile app. I know many of you, but my name is Torrie Behrens, and I have an outdated slide here. My title's changed. I'm now the Director of Customer Success with ENFOS, and I've been here for over 10 years, helping with client management, implementation, and support. And we're going to go through this webinar today. All right, so let me escape out of there. So the purpose to talk about the ENFOS mobile app, we're going to show you the tools available for the mobile app, the roles, different functionality, and the actions you can take while using the app. Some basics on the GoToWebinar. Chris spoke about this a little. We can't hear you speak, so please use the question box to add any questions. We've got a team answering your questions along the way, and as Chris mentioned, we're going to go through those questions at the end. And you can also minimize that left panel using the orange arrow. So you can make that a little smaller. I'm going to be sharing both my computer screen and my phone screen. So be patient as we transfer between the two. I'm using an iPhone, and we know, everyone else has different kinds of devices. We'll talk about some device requirements as we get into it. All right, so if you use ENFOS as a SaaS client or as a software as a service client, you'll have access to the ENFOS app. It's only available to those SaaS clients. And so our hosted clients, users do not have access. Most of the users we saw already join in do have access. They are a SaaS client. Most of our users are SaaS clients. If you have a question, feel free to put that in the question box. Just let us know your name and then the client you're using ENFOS for, and we'll be able to send a note back on you. As Chris mentioned, the webinar is recorded, and it's going to be available on the new tab page in ENFOS. And that's where all of our other webinars are also available. So if you've missed a previous one, those links are available. And we will also have the link, right? So it'll be a YouTube video link. If you want that link, please send us a note over, and we'll be sure to share it with you. One other note as we get into the mobile app, everyone who has joined knows that any of your questions, you first send them over to your ENFOS administrator, and then he or she can help you out answering those. Something that's good information for us is to know that if you encounter a bug, or if you think you encounter a bug while using the app, to let your administrator know that that was on the app screen, right? Things could work slightly different, so it's going to help us debug it if we know the app. And then, of course, if you're using the iOS or Android. All right, so let's start going into the app and working through it. I'm going to show you how to download the app. You can go to the Apple Store, and coming soon for Google Play for the Droid app. And so I'm going to share my screen here. And I am going to go to my App Store, and all I'm doing is searching the word ENFOS. All right, you can see I have two results here. I see the ENFOS app, and then below it I see the ENFOS field app. We're going to do the ENFOS app, right, the one up on the top. Obviously mine's already downloaded, so it says open. The field app is not available to users at this time. We'll talk about this more at the end of the webinar. The ENFOS app is available for Apple iOS 9 Plus and Android 4.1 Plus. All right, so you download your app and then you can open it up. When we're going to log in, coming up, I'm going to talk about a few other things first. But when you log into the app, you use your same user account that you use on your computer, including the same password. And any and all user account access questions should go to your ENFOS administrators. We as ENFOS employees do not have access to create your accounts, manage your user accounts, including permissions, and that includes the app. So be sure to send those your admin a note. If you don't know who your admin is, again, send us the client you're working for and we can help you out there. Your account has to be active to log in to the ENFOS app, right? The same as logging into ENFOS through the user interface on the computer. An app login does count as a login to your ENFOS account and is recorded into your account history. Our clients have a setting that requires users log in for a certain determination of days. Typically, it's about 90 days. And this is going to count. So if you're just logging in on the app, that is fine. All right, I want to talk a minute about clients that are using SSO because you may not be as familiar with your password. So SSO users can use the ENFOS app, but you need to know your email address and your ENFOS password, and that's not your SSO password. And so we know that some of the users using SSO don't know that ENFOS password, so you may need to contact your ENFOS administrator to get that password reset. This would not change your SSO login. It's really just to log into the ENFOS app. And then again, right, I'm going through this. This is the same account as you access on your computer. And that means your permissions, access, and account are all the same. And something specific for the administrators, you do not need to create or make any edits to allow users to access the mobile app. They can access it already, assuming their account is active. And then finally, just be sure that if you change your password in ENFOS on the computer, that you'll also need to use that updated password the next time you log into the app. All right, so those are some basics on your user account management and using the app. Okay, so I want to look at the UI on the computer first because I want to show everyone, what we're showing on the in ENFOS as you typically log in is the same information you're going to see in the ENFOS app. So let me log in. And I've got some test accounts here. Okay, great. So the first thing I see are my action items, and that's because that's what I have determined in my own user account. I see 1 plan, 2 proposals, no work authorizations, and then 2 invoices. And I'm going to see those same transactions when I log into the app. Now, you may want to determine your action items or define your action items. And this is, with or without the app. But you could always go to the user preferences under your own account. You open the action items section, and here's where you define those action items, right? So same action items you see on the screen are going to be the same action items you see in your ENFOS app. Now, this is not necessarily app related, but I know we get questions on this. Be sure everyone remembers at the bottom section of the action items area in your user preferences, we have some sort orders and sort defaults. That's a little bit new functionality. So just a reminder to all the users, you've got some controls over how your transactions are sorting. So keep that in mind. With user preferences, be sure to always click Save at the bottom of the page. All right. Let's go back to the app and take a look at this information. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to click my app. There we go. And on the bottom of the page, I have the hamburger icon down here. And when I click this icon, it allows me to select which system I want to log in. Now, by default, it's going to be your production system, but I can always toggle that, right? And I can log into my integration or my testing system. Again, keep in mind your passwords and your account needs to be active. Today, I'm going to log into that test system. Obviously, all the data and information we're going to be looking at is all test data. So I'm going to select testing, and I'm going to log in. I've synced mine with my Face ID. That's not required. Again, I have access to multiple companies, so I can see that selection before I log in. For the majority of the users, you would not have this selection, so you would just automatically be logged into the company that you have access to. All right, so we're logging in. Great. By default, you start in your action items. Now, any of the actions I take here are going to be the same as I take in the user interface. So, right, if you reject an invoice here, that counts as rejecting an invoice in the UI. And if you do not see any action items on your action item page, be sure to check those user preferences that we looked at in the ENFOS user interface before. Or it may be that you just do not have any transactions. On the top left icon, the hamburger icon up in the top left, if I click that, that opens my left panel. Here I can see some actions. And at the bottom of this page, I can see my two dots where I can toggle between two pages. I see the actions I have, as well as some history and favorites. So I can do that by swiping left or right. If I'm back on my action items page, I can always swipe right to get that to open also. All right. So those are really the basics, really straightforward. We're going to talk more about the functionality of the app. So back on my action items page, I see the indicators at the bottom of the page for each of my different transaction types. And I've got 4 options: my plans, proposals, work authorizations, or your company might call them contract releases or purchase orders, and then finally the invoices. I see the indicator to let me know how many of those transactions are on each of the different transaction types. If I click on the cell, I can toggle between each one of them. If I click on the cell where I see my transaction, I get some summary information. I can scroll through this and read through all my information. At the bottom, I have additional selections. I see my proposal summary information. I see my contact information, so all the contacts on my proposal. And I see my documents. I'm going to go back to my beginning page because on plans, we have a little bit more information. So same thing, I'm going to click on my transaction ID. So right away at the bottom, you can see I have a few more selections. I have my plan summary information. Scroll through, I can read all those details. Again, I see my contacts. But now I have a new option, and this is the details. And those of you who have access to the ENFOS financial module know that this is our grid, right? These are the details of our transaction. So I see my work breakdown structure, any comments. As I scroll over, I can see my actuals, and then my breakdown based off of my client's granularity. And of course, I can keep scrolling all the way over until I get to my grand total. My last option then is the history, and this is just showing me the history of this transaction. This information, the details and the history, that is coming soon to the proposals, work authorizations, and invoices. It's not released yet. It's something that we will be having for the other transactions in the future. but it is live for planning. So you do have that additional detail. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my action items, and we're going to do a few different ways to take action on our financials. All right, so if I swipe left, I see my additional options here. So it shows me my default option, which is approve, right? I click that big green button, and I'm going to approve that transaction. ENFOS checks the same rules and requirements as you have in the user interface, right? Do you have a next approver? Is there enough money in your plan to cover all the open purchase orders, et cetera? All the same rules that you have in your system are the same here in the mobile app. Your More option shows you additional options, additional actions against this plan. You can see I have a few additional actions that you may not, like administrative zap. That is one that I have because I have full permission. But you're going to see all of those actions that you have the ability to do in the More option. So I'm going to approve my plan. I'm going to click on my Approve button. As it processes, you see I get the notification, right? And this is my success notification. I have successfully approved my plan. I'm going to click OK. And immediately that plan is no longer on my action items page, right? I've taken action on that plan, and it does not need to be updated. Now, as I go over to proposals, and this is the same for all the different transaction types, but I wanted to show it here in proposal. In the top right, we have a green link, and it's called bulk. And if I click that bulk link, you can see I now have radio buttons next to my proposal. So I can select one or many of my proposals to perform a bulk action on. Now be sure to make your selections first before you click action. If I do not select anything and then click in the top right, action, it just says action and cancel, right? There's no action to take because I have not selected anything to take action upon. So be sure to make your selections, click action, and then again, you see those actions that you can do on your proposals, right? I can bulk approve, bulk reject, and then in my case with the full permission, I have bulk admin zap. So we will bulk approve. ENFOS gives me a warning, right? This is a bulk action. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes, obviously you're proceeding, and cancel, you would cancel. So I will approve them. I get an error, right? And this is a good error message. It's telling me I cannot approve my proposals because I don't have enough money in my plan. So that same thing, it's the same rules we would see in the user interface. So I know I need to get my plan fully approved. My plan that I did approve, that was still just pre-approved. I think it went to George Burnett, my next approver. But that was a message I was expecting to see there, knowing that we're going to see errors and success messages when we do our approvals. All right. Let's talk about some of the items in the left panel. I'm going to click cancel and open up my left panel. All right, we're going to start at the bottom of the page, right? Log out. It's really simple. It logs you out of the app. There is a 30-minute inactivity log out session. So if you're inactive for 30 minutes, ENFOS is going to automatically log you out of the app, and the next time you'll have to log back in. Right above that is the user preferences. And this is a limited list of user preferences. So I'm going to click the link for preferences, and you see I just have two options. I can choose my language. Obviously, I'm going to stay in English. And I can click my next approver. I can see my next approver, and you guys can see George Burnett. He is my next approver for each one of my financial transactions. And I could click plus to add additional next approvers or change my next approver. Now this is, of course, inherited from my ENFOS screen. All right, let's go back to the left panel. We're going to go back to the top now, and we're going to talk about the hierarchy. And I'm going to click on the blue cell, and here's where I can make my, my hierarchy selections, right? I can see the hierarchy I'm at by using the arrow that dropped down. I'm just at my owner level, so it just says company 1. I can click on the hierarchy icon to see the full hierarchy path where we are. Or I can click on the cells to make my selections to go where I want to go. Here we are. I've navigated down to an AOC. And now when I click my arrow, you can see my example AOC. And when I click on my hierarchy icon, I can see that full hierarchy path. Now, just a note on the functionality on this page. Let me click this, and we'll go back up to company 1. We see search here, right at the top. And that's not the search that we see in the ENFOS user interface, right, where you can search an AOC name or search part of an AOC name. That's really searching the information you see on this page. So do not try to use that search like an AOC search. All right. Let's go back, and I'm going to go back to my left panel and talk a little bit more about navigating to different nodes. As I swipe, I can see my history of sites that I've been to recently, as well as my favorites. So I can click my favorite link, and that takes me directly to my summary, just as it would where I favorited this screen. Up at the top of the app, I see the star icon. That lets me know that this AOC is a favorited AOC. You can make that selection or unselect it. And you can also view the map by clicking the map icon. All right, we'll look at the map in a bit. As I scroll through the AOC details, I see all of my AOC information. At the bottom, I see some additional options. I have contacts, as well as my documents and my folders, right? So you can see here I have one folder and one document. So I can see all of that information. All right. Let's come back to the AOC details. My node path is listed up at the top of the page. My node path AOC name is example AOC. There we go. Here's my map working. I clicked on the map icon, and it brought me to the latitude and longitude where my AOC marker is. And of course, I can scroll in and out. I've got options for my map, for my hybrid, and then, of course, for the satellite. All right. I'm going to look back at my contacts, and I'm going to click on my contact name. I see the name and the role. When I click on that contact name, this just gives you the information on that contact, right? So this is the information on my own user account. Let's go back to the left panel. We talked about the summary, right? When we navigated, that brought us right to the summary. So here's all the details that we saw. I'm going to open the left panel again. Action items will always take you back to the action items where we started at the beginning of the webinar. The action items are, right, we can always go back there by clicking on this action items link on the webinar page. address book. So address book and user account are very closely related. And there's a slight difference that I'm going to talk about at the beginning, because once we get into it, they're going to look very similar. So address book will show all of the user account details, as well as what ENFOS calls contacts. And contacts are accounts that do not have, they're not user accounts, right? It's just contact information. So those contacts do not have a password or permission group. But maybe it's your regulator, right? You add your regulator's contact information, and it's just listed in ENFOS, but they do not have an ENFOS user account. That's the information you're going to see in address book. If I search Alexa and click search, there is Alexa. I can click on her ID, and of course, I see all of her contact information. When I select user account, it is very similar, but this is just the user account information. So again, searching Alexa, and I still see her because she has a user account within the system. So this gives you that information on those users, their email address, their phone number, etc. Okay. Let's look at the maps, and the maps are going to pull based on where you are in the hierarchy. So I'm at the AOC. We looked at the AOC map when we were looking at the summary information. So that map would show you the same details. But I'm going to navigate in my hierarchy and go back to the owner level. Okay, so my hierarchy is updated. I know it's a little light here, and it's a little light on my phone also. At the top of the app, there is the hierarchy path, and that's my owner name right there. So now when I go back to Maps and I click the link, it processes, and I see my whole portfolio, right? I see all the sites that I have access to. And of course, as I scroll in, the bubble gets smaller and smaller until I, get down to a lower level. And then I actually start seeing some TACs, right? Here's a site TAC up in northern Wisconsin. This works just as the Maps module works in ENFOS, where we have the number 4, for example. I scroll in and I see there's actually 4 points, 4 site markers that are in close proximity of one another. So the Maps is really cool. It pulls from the hierarchy where you are in the app, and it shows you where the information is. Just as we looked in the AOC, we have the map, we've got the hybrid, and of course, satellite. All right, so that covers all of our summary information from the site section in the mobile app. I am going to log out and log into a different system, and we're going to talk about compliance. So we're going to log out, and I'm going to log back in, and I'm going to log into my second company here. All right, so we talked about the site module and the action items. We're going to talk about compliance. Right now, we have compliance items for the audit page. And we're going to look at a few examples here. So we're going to go to compliance audit. Great. So in the left panel, I clicked on the compliance audits. And of course, I was prepared for this webinar, so I had a site set up with a compliance audit. You can see I've got 2 different question groups here. I have my Senior Manager Safety Tour, and that audit is complete. So we're going to look at that audit first. When I click on that complete audit, I can see that all of my questions, the status is completed, and the answer, I can see the answers and the questions. At the bottom of the page, you can see I'm on all questions. There's also the audit summary, which gives me the summary of the information, and then the contacts, right? So I've got all of those options. But because this is completed, I don't have very many actions to take here, right? I can sort it, but that's it. It's just really for viewing information. I'm going to go back and look at my second question group. And you can see the status for question group for gate 2 is open. And when I click on that question group, it looks a little different, right? So my first question is already answered. And I can just view that question, right? If I click on that question ID, I see the question, I see the answer, and the comment. And I cannot edit it. It's already been answered. I can either go back to my audit summary, or I can click my arrow in the top right. If I click my arrow, I'm now brought to question 2 of 2. And you guys know with audit questions, there can be a lot of questions. We've seen even hundreds of questions, so there could be quite a few. We only have 2 here. My question 2 has a copy of the meeting minutes approving been saved, right? So now I can actually answer my audit question through the app, right? I select my answer by clicking the drop-down menu. I see all of my available actions. So I'm going to say yes. I click done. And then finally, I can enter in my comments. So I'll just type in Torrie, Behrens, reviewed. Great. My last step is to click done to clear out of my comments there. And if I'm happy with my question, I can click submit. My question status has changed to completed. And this question 2 is done. I can toggle back to look at question 1, of course, go back and forth, continue through all my questions. Or I can go back and look at my full audit, right? So here's all of my questions. Again, at the bottom of this page, we have the audit summary and the contacts. When I go back to my full audit list, I see my 2 audit questions. So it's a great way to answer audit questions using your phone or your device in the app. All right, so I'm going to go one more time on how to navigate down to a site or an AOC. Just because I know we went through that a little quickly. I'm going to open up my left panel. And we've got a couple of ways, right? So if you have favorited sites or AOCs, you can scroll over. You see your history on the first tab. You can click any of those site names. Or you can look at your favorites, right? I actually don't have favorites here. I'm going to log back into my other owner. But you can click on any of those favorite links to take you to the favorites. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to log out. Great. Here's where I will have some favorites. So here's my favorites. I can click on any of those links, and I'm navigated down to my AOC or my site level. You can navigate to any level in the hierarchy. Now, if I want to use the hierarchy drop-down options to navigate, same thing, open my left panel. And I click on the blue section, hierarchy, right at the top. Now I have some options, right? If I click the drop-down arrow, I see my full node path. This is where I am currently navigated. If I click on the hierarchy icon, again, I see that full node path, but I have a few more options. So I'm going to click up on my company, and that brings me all the way back up to the top. Remember, we talked about this is a little light, but we can see the company 1 listed here. We talked about the search, right? That only searches our page. But if I click on my links, it's going to take me where I want to go, right? So if I click on rail, United States, IC, Illinois, example site, example AOC, right? Click, 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 and I'm taken all the way down to my AOC level. If I wanted to stop somewhere above the AOC, maybe I went too far, I'd use that hierarchy icon, and let's say I want to go to my site level. I click on example site. And now if I open my summary, I'm taken to my summary level detail, not the AOC level detail. So the hierarchy option here is a great way to search our sites and AOCs and every level in between. On this page, it's telling me there's no nodes below our AOC. We all know that. So I can click the summary link, and that takes me over to the summary details for my AOC. All right, let's talk about some of the future enhancements for the mobile app. So very shortly, we're going to be releasing the Android app, and that's in beta testing. We'll have more details on when that is available in the Google Play Store. If you're interested or want us to alert you when that is available, send us a note in the questions, and we'll add your name to the list and be sure to let you know as soon as that's available. We talked about right at the beginning of the webinar, under action items, the detail grid that we saw in the plan, which shows our work breakdown structure and the dollar amounts for each one of the items. That is coming to proposals, purchase orders, and invoices very soon. In addition to the history section, right? So you can see the transaction history for all of your different transaction types. ENFOS is also going to be releasing the activity module within the ENFOS app coming up. You know, this will allow you to see your site activities and make edits to those activities. And you know, I said site activities, but we know activities can be set up at any level in the hierarchy. That is also going to help with more easily syncing your device calendar and the ENFOS activity calendar. So look forward to that. We will absolutely have that in the feature memo that we send out to each one of our administrators prior to the quarterly releases. And that information can always be seen in the new tab release notes. All right, a couple other items we're going to talk about for future enhancements. We have upload a photo. So I have a screenshot. No, I have a screenshot of the other items. Let me see here, actually. Yeah, I have a screenshot of the next one. Upload a photo. So this will allow you to take a photo using your device and then upload it to ENFOS on the app. And when you take a photo, it has the geo coordinates. And what ENFOS is going to do is search for any of your sites that are geocoded, anything within a 5-mile radius. And if it's within a 5-mile radius and there's multiple sites, ENFOS will allow you to select the site that you want to load it to. But this will allow you to upload photos from your device directly into ENFOS via the app. And that's coming soon. Now, what's similar to that, but slightly different, is our ENFOS Field app. ENFOS Field Photos. Here we go. So here's our preview of our photo. We take a photo, we load it, and then we select that site, right? And we can, this is actually the screenshot of if there's multiple sites, which site do we select? Now, the ENFOS Field Photos. We talked about that separate app at the beginning of the webinar. This app is not available to the users, and there's only a slight difference. It's really for uploading photos. The difference here is this app creates a new site if there is not one within a 5-mile radius or that the user wants to select. So we know most of our clients, right, you guys don't want users adding new sites. So that's why there's a difference between the upload photos, which does not add new sites, but allows users to add photos, and the field photos, which would add new sites. So just the upload photos will be coming soon. All right, we're going to open it up to questions shortly, but I'm going to let Chris speak again for just a moment.
Thanks, Torrie. So, big news for all ENFOS users. We are opening up early bird registration for the ENFOS Experience 2019 next week. So for those that don't know, the ENFOS Experience is our biannual conference for ENFOS users and anyone who has a hand in the management of environmental liabilities. So this year's conference is taking place at the Fairmount Austin on September 24th and 25th. We're going to be releasing the full detailed agenda in the months to come, but you can look forward to short, engaging presentations from leaders from companies such as PG&E, Pace Analytical, Valero, Golder, Arcadis, AECOM, Total, Univar, and more. So the knowledge sharing and the network opportunities are worth the price of admission alone. But most importantly, you'll leave with actionable ideas and strategies that are driving the forefront of the industry and can actually create results for your company. So keep an eye out for the early bird registration next week. And I'll give back to Torrie for some Q&A.
Yeah, that's always good, and we always appreciate it. We'll be there, so you can come and tell us how much you love the mobile app.
Yes.
All right, questions and answers. All right, we're going to take a look here. Can we perform actions on financials after opening them to view details? All right, so let me show that on the screen. I'm going to escape my PowerPoint. Go back to my app. Okay, so let's go back over there. I'm going to click on my proposal ID, right? And we're viewing the details. And no, the actions are not performed on this page, right? The actions are always performed back on the bulk actions page. And that matches what's in the ENFOS user interface, right? If you click on a proposal ID to read more information, you can click on a link there to do the review, but it takes you to another page. Whereas the action items page is like that primary landing page where you do the action. Okay. Does the app allow screen rotation? Yes. So if you have screen rotation enabled on your phone settings, you can view the app in landscape view. This is especially useful for when using plan details. So I cleared my plan, so of course I can't look at it, but let's take a look here. It's not doing that for me, probably because my phone's plugged in. You'll have to trust me on that one. All right. How to move back up the hierarchy when you're at a site or an AOC. Okay, so let's see where we are. I'm at my AOC, and I want to go to my site level. I can see my AOC right up here. I know I'm also at my AOC because there's no nodes below that level. If I click on my icon in the right, my hierarchy icon, that shows me my full hierarchy path. I can click on any of those cells to navigate up. So I'm going to go to my site level. So I'm going to click on where it says example site. That changes what I see up on the top of the page. It changes my options for the hierarchy. And if I go back to my summary, I'm viewing my site summary information as opposed to my AOC summary information. All right. Where do field photos reside once loaded? Okay, so this would be the upload photos, not the ENFOS Field Photo app. But when you upload photos, they always get added to the document section. And this is the same if you're in ENFOS. And I'm going to log into ENFOS right now. If you load photos into ENFOS, either from your phone or from the user interface, they always get loaded to, let's do example, the documents section. And there's a folder that'll be automatically loaded once you add photos called photo. So all of those photos would be stored in a document called photos. That's true at the AOC and the site level. ENFOS automatically adds in that folder. So that's where you can see them. If you're within ENFOS, you would see your photos here in the carousel. They would show on the screen. Where they're going to display on the app, I'm not sure yet. All right, keep sending over your questions. And I'm going to go back to sharing my mobile app. And you know, something that we kind of went through quickly was my screenshot. And the screenshot here is how, when you're adding a photo via the map, how to select your site if there's multiple within the same area, right? And that's, you can see here on the map, we've got our primary site, where we are, and then there's a few other sites. Here's a site marker, here's another one, here's a fourth. And then this is where you would upload it to the site or select this AOC. All right. So administrators, one of our administrators have asked us on a function for resetting user accounts, changing passwords, and other user management, right? We know, right? That's something you guys need. That is a future enhancement, but we do not have that scheduled yet. So keep bugging us and telling us how much you want that. That's a great point too. So, you know, as you use the app, and just like anywhere in ENFOS, it's always a work in progress, right? So we want to hear from the users and the administrators what you love and what you want to see more of, and what would make your life easier to have on the app. All right, we are going to stick around and wait for additional questions. I'm more than happy to go through the app and talk more and more about it if you want additional examples of anything. Otherwise, this will conclude the planned webinar section. We appreciate your time very much for joining, and look forward to emails from Chris on future webinars and the ENFOS conference. All right, thank you, everyone.
See you next time.
And all right. Do only admins have user accounts? All right, no. Only all ENFOS users with active accounts would have user accounts that could access the mobile app. So again, things to keep in mind: you have to have an active ENFOS user account, and you have to be a SaaS client, software as a service client, which the majority of our clients and users are. And then you can access the app, right? You can log in. I wanted to note at the beginning, if you're using SSO or single sign-on, you have to make sure to know that ENFOS password to log on. Whereas, you know, when you log into your single sign-on, it is automatically logging you into ENFOS when you click the link. So, you know, keep that in mind for our user admins. For clients that use SSO, is you may be getting some password requests from people, and that's most likely because they're trying to log into the ENFOS app. I really like the bulk action. I think that's That's a good feature, right? Since you can see all of your transactions and you can view those details, and then obviously review and approve them in bulk. You know, I've noticed something while I'm doing this. The time up here says 9:41. That's not the real time. My phone has a different time. It's no time zone I'm in, so that might just be a symptom of me sharing my my iPhone screen. Other than that, right? Pretty good. The iPhone time, that's the only thing that's weird here. All right. I think we're probably good. We're not receiving any more questions, so we're going to end the webinar for everyone. As always, send your questions over to your ENFOS administrators, and they can forward them on over to us. Thanks, everyone.